It's probably not.
Okay.
And a lot of people live in the city and its environs, and I'm not aware that library and archives actually exist and just how much records are kept there. Some of the records are kept on-site, others are kept off-site. And if, for example, you identify a file that you may need, whether it's audio, visual, or paper, you can have that within 24 hours. Okay, some of the items might be marked restricted, which means you have to go through access to information and privacy, and that takes some time. It could take anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Okay? Another thing I like to say is that you don't need to have any special training or background to be a researcher. Okay? Or to obtain good research results. The reason why, for me, in my experience was when I started doing indigenous research, because it was a concentrated area, I had to learn what was called a record group. Because in their holdings, library and archives of record groups were dealing with different subjects. Like, for example, if you want to research on indigenous affairs, justice, RCMP, fisheries and oceans, all the different government departments, they have a record group. And back then, a record group was assigned a specialist archivist, which means anything you want to know about the record group, that particular archivist will be able to help you. Now, one of the most important things is that when you decide to do your research and to get good results, okay, you must have a clear understanding what your objectives are. In other words, what am I researching? What would I like to research? And because by so doing, it will determine the methodology that's employed, okay? And by that I mean is, there are some pertinent questions that you need to ask yourself. There, for example, are there available sources for my research? Can I access the sources for consultation? Are these sources accessible? Can I take photographs? Can I obtain digital copies or can I photocopy? Will I be consulting books, journals, diaries, government records, private collections? Are these repositories within proximity of where I live? In other words, do I need to travel? What's the cost going to be involved? These are all relevant information that are necessary in conducting timely and successful research. For example, if you want to say, look at newspaper, like somebody may say, for example, I'll give an idea of some of these newspapers that are available at library and archives. Okay? Some are available online, others are available in hard copies. Because I think only about of the items that library and archives has in its repository, I think maybe 2% has been digitized. Wow. Most of the stuff is not available online, so you actually have to be in the building, look at hard copies, and in some cases, well, in most cases, you can either take photographs or you can scan. Okay. So now, if you're consulting, say, for example, newspaper, library and archives, here are some of these newspapers that are available. The Halifax Chronicle. So, example, if someone were doing research on our people who would say lived in Nova Scotia, the Halifax Chronicle has been around since 1863. The Ottawa Citizen, 1846. The now defunct Ottawa Journal, 1885. The Toronto Star, 1892. The Globe and Mail, 1844. The Montreal Gazette, 1785.
Sorry, bro, could you repeat the first one? The date of the first one?
The Halifax Chronicle?
Yeah.
1862.
You know, that's before Canada was even
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Before Canada, paper
That's right.
was
It's pre-Confederation.
Yeah.
Okay. The Ottawa Citizen, 1846. The Ottawa Journal is now defunct, 1885. The Toronto Star, 1892. The Globe and Mail, pre-Confederation, 1844. The Montreal Gazette, 1785.
Globe and Mail, same newspaper.
Globe and Mail, 1844.
Yeah, same Globe and Mail.
Same Globe and Mail. Same one that comes out of Toronto.
Wow.
The Montreal Gazette, 1785.
A question there.
Yes.
That was who was controlling it?
Pardon me?
Who was in control of it?
Control of what?
We don't have this.
Not necessarily. I mean, newspapers over time change in terms of ownership, right? And of course, editorial. But one of the reasons why newspapers are important to consult, especially when they say for primary sources, because you have to think about the political climate at the time, right? And what the editorials say, and the columnists, what were their leanings politically. So it's important, in terms of newspapers, if you're looking at them in terms of primary source for your research, yeah. As I was saying, the New York Times, 1851. All these are available in archives in microfilm forms, so you can consult the microfilms, and you can scan the images.
The Montreal Gazette was
1785.
1785.
Yeah, and there are microfilm copies at Library and Archives. Yes.
Excuse me. Stevie.
Yeah.
You in a position where you're researching, right? But it's going to be difficult for black people to really find a research job. They have a company, sit down and play a black man, a black woman. 2, 3 years, 5 years, sitting at the desk researching without coming up with nothing until after 5 years, right? So I don't know how it fit really with black people getting into a research job. Is somebody gonna pay a black person for 5 years, hoping that they might come up with something after 5 years, right? You look it now. Me work in a construction too.
Yeah.
And sometimes me on the job site, and me are the only black man on the job site.
Yeah.
Right? 90% of the time, I'm the only black man on the job site.
Yeah.
We work with 200 people. One black man on the job site. It's an easy thing, we get along sometimes.
Yeah.
And for research, how many black people is in a research? Like you're probably the only black man we know in a research in the world right now. How that encourage other people here to get in the research?
Well, it's interesting that you asked, because every year for the last 6 years, save for last year when I was away, I attended a workshop in Toronto called Excellence Now. And what it is, it's you act as a role model, so to speak. Okay? And these young people come up and they ask, what does an archivist historian do? How do you make your money? I mean, that's the first question. How do you get your money? And I tell them, I don't make a lot of money. But it was by accident I got into research. And I mean, I can just give you a quick background story as to how I got into research. A friend of mine who's in Ottawa here, okay? I think some of you guys know Bruce Gilpin. Bruce wanted to go off to law school, and he had 2 contracts that would have taken him to the end of the fiscal year, which as you know is March 31st. But he was going off to school in September. And it was his first year, and he didn't want to have any work to do with it. Just wanted to concentrate on school. So he approached me and said, I have a couple of contracts that I'm obligated to take care of until the fiscal year, and I'm going off to school. Can you help me out? I said, well, I'll see what I can do. I come on in September, and at the end of March, I realized that, maybe I found my reach.
They are contract.
At the time.
They are contract now to do research. No, too. I do research now.
Yeah, but I don't do contract for the government. I work for the First Nation banks. I've never worked for the government.
But you're under contract now.
Yes, I'm on a
So
contract.
that's how you get paid. Okay.
That's why
That's my question. So once you have to get a contract to do research.
No,
Okay.
no. Library and Archives open to the public. And hold on, Mariah, the thing about it is free. All you need is a piece of ID. You get a 2-year pass. After 2 years, it's renewed.
And they pay you.
No.
This is
No, I'm conducting my own research in addition to the work I do for my client.
I was just going to say that I'd appreciate maybe if we could let the man go forward, because I think we can all agree that everyone sitting in this room is not someone who takes what he's saying very lightly. So the people that you're talking about who don't care to research and don't want to do anything like this would rather just stay with what they aren't in this room. As someone who is here, would seek research out if they had to, who's been in school with situations like this before, and been to university levels of schooling, I can sit here and I can listen to a man speak. So I kind of like to hear what you have to say.
All right, thank you. So, and if there's anyone who's going to be doing like any research on, say, transatlantic slavery, the Jamaican Gleaner, which It's been around, I think only the Montreal Gazette predates the Jamaica Gleaner, which was established in 1834.
1834.
1834.
Jamaica Gleaner.
The Jamaica Gleaner. Yeah.
Can you spell that?
Jamaica hyphen GLEANER.
GLEANER.
Yeah. Established in 1834. It was called the Jamaica Gleaner and Compendium of News. It was a weekly publication and it became a daily. Okay. And incidentally, I've not been there, but I'm making arrangements to go there. That anyone here who's doing any research on Jamaica or specifically transatlantic slavery, Jamaica is the place to do it. And the Jamaica Archives in Spanish Town is the place to be. Because my professor at Carleton, Professor Audrey Hipty, that's her specialty. And she has done extensive research there.
How about Maroon history?
I wouldn't be surprised if you can find some of that there as well. Yeah, because all the colonial records,
Right.
they were transferred to Britain, they stayed in Jamaica. Yeah.
What about the islands below, the lesser Antilles?
Like Eastern Caribbean?
Yeah.
For that, you probably find most of the records in the colonial office in London. Yeah, which Library and Archives do have some of those records. Yeah.
Here in Ottawa.
Here in Ottawa. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to that too.
Yeah.
When I went to Trinidad and Tobago, and I went to the library in Tobago, that's what they said, that a lot of the historical stuff is back in the colonial hands.
What they call the metropole.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it, and I found this through my research in doing indigenous research, is that the British kept impeccable records. Yes, impeccable records. Yeah, and I remember once I went to Winnipeg at the Hudson's Bay Archives, and I spent a week there doing research for a tribal council I was working for, and the records are just like records on top of records on top of records on top of records. So one of the things that is important in conducting the research is how do you take notes, okay?
Yeah.
And it's imperative that you take excellent notes. And the reason for that is if you can't have digitized copies, which are like, whether it's the scanning or photographs, okay, then you have to actually write it down, okay? And in some cases at Library and Archives, you have rare books, like books that have been out of print for like sometimes 100 years. In some cases, like in my experience, I was working for a group of bands that was suing the Ontario government and the government of Canada. About 22 group of bands called the Robins-Seward Treaty. They were signatories to the treaty in 1850, September 9, 1850. And they were suing the government for breach of trust for the annuity payments. So I had to actually consult the original treaty that was signed between William Benjamin Robinson and the 22 chiefs of the band. And that treaty is held in the preservation unit in Gatineau. So I had to make arrangements to go there, and I couldn't touch it. My tripod, I'd be like, set up my tripod like this, and I had to be no closer than 2 feet to the treaty. So there are documents that you can have access to, but you may not be able to say, well, get too close. So these are some of the things that you have to take into consideration. The good thing about in taking notes, okay, is that the most important thing I should say when taking notes is that you must have proper citations. And in my case, for example, most of the research that I do ends up in litigation.
In litigation?
In litigation. Most of it, I would say probably about 95% of it end up in litigation. Okay? First Nations against the government of Canada, government of whichever province they're in court. Okay? And so what takes place is that I may find a file, I research that file, and I make a note, say for example, in my database, LAC, which means Library and Archives Canada, Record Group 10, which is Indigenous Affairs, volume 101, file 100. And so that's logged in the narrative when the narrative is presented to the Crown. And so when the Crown does its research now, they use those very same citations. So it can be, when they try to refute the claim, then they have to actually go back to the same citations, the same sources for verification and authentication. So it saves a lot of time. And government, one thing about the government, they'll always have more time and more money than everybody else.
Straight up.
Okay? So they'll have all the time in the world and all the money in the world. Okay? So it's important to have your proper citations. And one of the reasons I say that is because I remember back in 1997, we started working, myself and my colleagues were working for this tribal council called the Banque Nation Secretariat. And they're in northern Quebec in Temiskaming, Wolf Lake, and Barrier Lake. And they have ties to a kingship ties to a community in Ontario called Golden Lake. So there was a report done on Golden Lake. So we said, great, well, let's use the report from Golden Lake, check out the sources and start from there. 3 in every 5 citations were wrong. Yeah, 3 in every 5 were wrong. So now you see the volume number, you know it's coming from Live in Archives. That's much you know. But the volume number is wrong, or sometimes the volume number is correct, page number was wrong. We're talking about some files now like 500 pages. So now you have to flip through 500 pages to find a document. So that's time consuming, and these banks don't have they may have the time, but certainly don't have the money.
That deliberate that they do that sometimes?
Hey, good job.
Another reason why you need to have proper citation is that if your research is being shared, whether through publication or through definition, and just like the example I just gave you, if someone comes along and say, okay, oh great, there's some citations here, man, that look like I can do some research on this, you send it in the wrong way because the citations are incorrect. So now, how do you keep your records within the research? The best way is to keep a database. And since 1997, I've been using a database called DB Textwork. And it's a really, really nice database because you can search by date. The different references that you can use
Sorry, what was that? DB Textwork?
Yeah, yeah. The different, you can search, you have about 8 or 10 fields. You can put in the name, put in Alfonso Williams, and every document.
John Moore L. John Moore L. Free National.
Pardon me?
I think it's John Moore L. Williams is for the Scottish people.
Yeah.
So we're
That's
original.
Yeah.
Put on the record, thank you.
Yeah. So you do a search by name. All the documents that are connected to your name will show up in the database. By date, by subject. So DB Textwork has served me well since 1997. Now, as I was saying, it allows for easy access and for easy reference. I mean, the main reason for conducting research is that you want to put together a narrative. Okay, so it's important that if the purpose of the narrative is to inform and to empower, then it's important that the research is done right on the front end. Like you don't want to be going back because the citations are wrong. So that, brothers and sisters, is Research 101 on your student.
Clearly.
Any questions or comments? And remember, library and archive open to the public. All you need, piece of ID, get a 2-year pass to the day you register for the first time, and it's renewable every 2 years. It's open for 16 hours a day, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. My sums is correct. And Monday to Friday, 10 to 6 on the weekends. Yeah.
Is there a difference in like when you're talking about doing research and going to these archive buildings? Does it matter books or microfilm to get particular information, or
whatever is available?
Whatever they have there.
Whatever they have in the repository. Yeah. Like I do a lot of research over by the Department of Indigenous Affairs over in Gatineau. They're all files.
Yeah.
Yeah. Library and archives, like I said, have 51 million items. And all the records from all the government departments are eventually transferred to library and archives.
Yeah. Now in your research in those places, do you find that like there's still some things, pertinent things that might be missing as far as you doing your research, or do you most of the times find what you're looking for?
You don't always, because, and the reason being is because the government over time, they had what was called document management, where they would take an old block of files, throw them in a bonfire, burn them.
Put in a bonfire, huh?
Yeah, and just burn them.
Like the burning of the books.
Burning
of
books.
Inquisition practices.
Yeah,
Yes, Father.
yeah. So you mentioned, I used to work at the Institute of Jamaica. So a lot of the information, like historical information related to our people, is at the actual Institute of Jamaica.
Oh, wonderful. Glad to know.
Right, so the Institute is a part of, like, so there's 4 parts. The art gathering part, the historical part, and then the National Library. Right, so that's where a lot of information is. I want to mention something else when it comes to research and getting rare books. There are certain books that you can't find because they're out of print, like 100-year, all out of the intellectual property scope, 40 years or something like that. You can get about 56,000 rare books from Project Gutenberg online.
Gutenberg.
Project Gutenberg?
Yeah, it's spelled Gutenberg. So you can get a lot of books that's out of print, and because it's out of print, there's no claim on those books. But those books are not in the libraries either. Especially books that will enlighten and empower.
No copyright on those. We can digitally produce those.
It's out of copyright, right? So you can digitally copy, you can even send it.
Right.
We can rearrange it and create your own copyright.
Public domain now.
Yeah. So that's just what I'm.
Great point.
I know I don't want to talk too much because I'm leaving, but I just want to, I don't know if I can comment on what he said about the research section. We have to remember that one of the reasons why we do research is for personal enlightenment. It's not just to get a job. And we really have to kind of break from this idea that we need a particular job. Somebody has to give us a job. Right? So research is very important. For example, right now, all the universities on the planet, about 90% of the universities on the planet, not because they like us anymore, but because of market forces, they're forced to open up their university and their libraries to the world. And the reason why they're doing it is not because they have a sudden good heart for education and for enlightenment. The reason they're forced is that it's market forces. Because the educational system all over the planet is being driven like online, right? So there's these competition for universities and so on, right? So yeah, but I understand what he's saying. If we just look at like research and try to get it done, no, you're not going to make a living from that. But you will make a living from that. Right? You will not make a living from the research itself, but you'll make a living
from the knowledge,
gain from the research. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, right. So I'm gonna leave now. So I didn't want to just walk out.
No problem.
So,
thank you, bro.
You have a question, comment? Out? Yeah. Well, I can only speak from my own experience. Like I said, one of the primary things that we need to establish when we start to become a researcher is that what am I going to research? Yeah, because that will determine where you go and what's available. And like I said, I had no formal training as an archivist or a researcher. I just learned as I went along. In the beginning, it was very difficult because I didn't have a laptop. It was all, everything was handwritten.
Old school.
Old school. So when I got my first laptop, it was like, you know, being able to conduct my research in a more effective way, especially when you have electronic items that you could just put in a Dropbox and your client can download, 2,000 miles away. Because 85% of the people that I've worked for, I've never met. Yeah. They know I exist and they send me a work order, their request, and I find the documents they need, into my Dropbox, I inform them, and they invoice them and send me a check. Mm-hmm.
So you're available for freelance work at this point in time? Yeah. People can contact you. Well, I just wanted to put that out there so people can know where to contact you and be free.
Yeah, feel free to put. Yeah.
I have a question after you put. No, after you put your information on the record.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, no, just so because we're streaming online as well.
Okay.
So just so people who are listening online could get your contact information or whatever. If you want to give that out, feel free to put that out there too.
Yeah, I don't have a website, but I can be contacted through email, which is wikiwaki, which is WIKIWAKI @hotmail.com. My phone number is 613-513-8648.
In terms of these jurisdictions in Canada and the provinces, how much of your research do you have to do? Do you have to go to the specific provincial repositories compared to being in Ottawa and having central repositories?
Okay. Well, for the government records at Library and Archives Canada, the correspondences were usually done between the deputy minister at the deputy minister level, and oftentimes you find the same copy of the document here in Ottawa that you'll find on the campus at York University at the Ontario Archives. Yeah.
What are the provinces?
English was the official language for communication with the colonial government. There are documents that you'll find, say, for example, in Gatineau at Bibliothèque Archives de National, but most of it is actually genealogy, like old church records from all the, because the churches were active especially in Ottawa Valley. Eh? Yeah, there are, like, for example, there's an archives, many of us may not even know about it. It's at on Main Street across from the Green Door, called the Oblate Archives.
The Oblate?
Oblates. And they're a Catholic missionary called
Like part of St. Paul's University? Or?
No, besides St. Paul's.
Okay.
It's called OMI, which is Order of Mary Immaculate. And they were very active in the Ottawa Valley in terms of doing missionary works. So they have a boatload. So anybody doing research on the Ottawa Valley, they have a boatload, motherload of information, especially in the Algonquin people, whether it be in Algonquin on the Quebec side or Algonquin on the Ontario side. Yeah, so in terms of your question, what you have is that not only was the federal government collecting information, having their own records, the provincial governments also did the very same thing.
Right, and again, before, so as you mentioned, before Confederation, you had colonial records.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is like how much access do you have to particular colonial records?
Well, before, sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
Well, before you had before Confederation, you had Upper and Lower Canada, which was basically Ontario and Quebec.
Yeah, we also had Nova Scotia.
Yeah, Nova Scotia.
Well,
so most of those records are still transferred to Library and Archives.
Oh.
Like, for example, if you wanted to consult like legislative records, you have a publication called the Legislative of the United Provinces of Canada, as opposed to Canada.
Yeah.
So those records are classified in that way, where you get pre-colonial, pre-Confederation records. It's called the United Provinces of Canada. And when at the advent of Confederation, it was now called Canada. So some of those records were accessible at Library and Archives and at the respective provincial archives. I did some work at the Ontario Archives in York. I did the one in Winnipeg and the one in Quebec City. Yeah, which is the Quebec Provincial Archives. And they have a small branch in Gatineau. I think it's off Gravier Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken.
Do your research. And those who were making writings based upon what the indigenous people and how they were conducting themselves. Have you noticed that those who were doing the writings were not mindful of the culture of the ones that they were writing of?
You mean like about the First Nation people?
Yes.
Well, they were mindful of it, but they didn't really see them as human beings. And most of the writers see them, they refer to as savages. Yeah. And one of the things about Canada is that Canada has never acknowledged itself as a colonial power. Never. And that's the reason why, in terms of its indigenous people, the policy has always been either assimilation or extermination.
Wow. Please repeat that one more time.
Canada has never acknowledged itself as a colonial power because its policies from day one at the advent of conquest was either assimilation or extermination. If we can't assimilate it, let's get rid of it. Yeah. And for most of the Aboriginal people, it was cultural extermination. Because in terms of physical extermination, it was due to disease, like smallpox. Because all these European diseases, they had no immunity towards it because they were not exposed to it.
Right, but if you're gonna, you just come in contact, that's different. But if you're deliberately sending case of blankets over,
I remember.
That's biological warfare.
Pardon me? Yes, because you know about the residential school system. Yeah, and that what they did was pretty much they took these children from their parents and then housed them in a particular school, and then these children were taught mostly by church officials, and they weren't allowed to speak their language. They weren't what they wanted to do was to make white people out of Aboriginal people. That's pretty much what the policy was.
I'm serious.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Now that we have a Judicial government who see things differently now,
you think so? You think so?
Wait a minute. Hear me. Now a more inclusive government now. At first, we see black people as behind the prime minister in the office. So you never see that with Harper. You never see that with nobody. They actually do. This is black man and black man. But like, right? So in terms of the Indians, in terms of the Aboriginal people, them say that them look at self-government, and the Aboriginal then think that self-government is a way to get out of them starvation and assimilation thing, right? So is your hope then in the future, based on Trudeau outlook, the Aboriginal and federal progress?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer your question this way. In terms of Justin Trudeau, I think he's trying very much to be like his father, right? Which is unfortunate, because his father was an independent. Okay? In addition to that, you can check the records. I think the Mulroney government did most of what our people have accomplished in this country. I think most was done during Mulroney years, believe it or not. Okay? So in any event, to go back to what you're saying about, this government being an inclusive government, whereby talking about self-government, the issues that plague First Nations will not be resolved, whether in 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, or 4 terms of this present government. Some of those issues are generation deep. And until they attack those issues, okay, at that level, you can talk about self-government all you want. Okay? I remember a couple of years about the problems that in Ottawa. Okay? I remember in 1998, when I started working for the Algonquin Nation Secretariat at Tribal Council, one of the member bands is in Barrier Lake. It's called Barry Lake, but they're located beside a lake called Lac Rapide, which is 3.5 hours from Ottawa. No running water, no electricity, one phone line. Okay? What do you do for drinking water? They take the water from the lake and they throw Javix in it. Okay? The source of the drinking water was also the source of the sewage. Or they dumped it in sewage. One phone line, no running water. Quebec hydro grid ran right by the reservation. It was electrified.
When was that?
In the 1990s, late 1990s, when I went to Barry Lake, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've visited about, I think, in my time, about 15 reservations. And they have varying degrees of modernity. There are some that are, quite wealthy because of the resources that they have. Some about, like the ones in BC, for example, they have fisheries and timber, illegal stuff. Okay. There's some in northern Ontario where the land is nothing can grow on the land. Absolutely nothing.
Why?
It's just dust. The land isn't fertile, it's all rocks.
Well, so that's very cheap.
Yeah, because in Western Canada, for example, which at the time was called Rupert's Land, when immigrants started to come over from Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, the Aboriginal populations were pushed off those fertile plains, what we call the prairies, and housed in reservations. And land grants were given to these new immigrants. Hundreds of acres of land were given to them.
Same thing.
Steve, we're going to invite you back again because that was so informative and we're just scratching the surface.
But that's what
we have,
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yes, Sunshine.
Do they still have a system where they produce something on a reservation? You can take it out of the reservation.
No, you can't. The only good thing about doing business on the reservation is that it can't be taxed with HST. Yeah.
It can't be what?
It can't be taxed
With HST.
with HST. Yeah.
You gotta pay all the other ones though.
No tax
Oh,
whatsoever.
you're right,
No
okay.
taxes whatsoever. Yeah. Like if you know you drive to Toronto, there's a place called Marysville on the Tiny Niagara First Nations where they sell gas. That's where I buy my gas because there's no tax.
Where you buy your one?
Marysville.
Yeah. Off 401.
Up to 401, just between Belleville and Napanee.
Caledonia.
It says 49. Highway 49. Yeah. You get more for your money if you don't pay the taxes on the gas. Yeah, anything about the reservation, you don't pay the taxes.
Maybe next year.
Napanee.
Next year. 6 months or whatever.
When you pass Napanee, start looking up for it. It's about 22 kilometers from Belleville. So, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. What's your name again? Title? My name is Steve Talbot.
Steve.
Yeah. Last name is Talbot.
Tallman.
Talbot. T-A-L-B-O-T.
Talbot.
T-A-L-B-O-T. Yeah.
So anything like Tribal?
Pardon?
Was that anything like Tribal?
No.
You watch it. You watch it.
Thank you for that, brother. Appreciate that.
You can see that you were.
You weren't really gonna be in agreement.
So coming up next, family, we have Grand Chief Pujoa Goel. Obviously, needs no introduction to the Morris family here. So again, get the pens and pencils.
Islam. If we can do a round of applause for Brother Alfonso. As well as round of applause for the other speakers. So, what we want to do is just go over the proclamation papers, because there is a lot of information in there that could be used to assist us in getting out of, you know, what we would call discrimination, racism, etc.
I thought you were going to.
No. So some of what the brother was speaking about with regard to the concept of the natives and indigenous people. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that an aspect of, or the true aspect of the Aboriginal and indigenous people are the people classified as Negro, Black, colored, right? Because of this assumption of who it is that we are, and then we go with the assumption. It's like the saying that, you know, when we do our research on ourselves, we found out that we all have European slave names, right? We acknowledge and recognize the fact that we have a European slave name, but then we don't do anything about it. It just turns into, oh, well, grandma had that name and whoever had that name, and that's just what it is, right? So as far as making this fact known that we are not Negro, Black, colored people, we are not people who came over here on slave ships and all that. We have a direct connection to this side, not just the people that they say, quote unquote, are the Indians or the natives, right? So-called Negro, Black, colored people also have a direct connection to this side of the hemisphere. That, you know, when you find, for example, so-called Indians, Indian tribes or whatever, going to a brother to do the research for them, it should let the people know where the real power is. Why didn't they go to Chief whoever? Why didn't they go to some guy that looks like an Indian? Why they going to a brother that's dark skinned, you know what I mean? Supposedly from all continent and all that stuff, came over here on a slave ship. What do you know about over here? They should go to somebody who's credible as far as a researcher from here. But they chose to go to the true Aboriginal and Indigenous to do their research for them. Right? This is them. The people who claim that they're the people who know about the stuff of being Indigenous here, they're not going to Indigenous like who looks like them. They're going to Indigenous who looks like us. Which should be a key to us to let us know that, hold on a second. Who's really the authority? Right? Who's really the judicial? Who's really the one that's who really has the superior claim? Right? So in making this known, we do paperwork called Judicial Notice and Proclamation. If we can get the dictionary Moores, if we can get Judicial Notice and Proclamation. Now, Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that they have to proclaim that they're not Negro, Black, colored people. And once you make that claim that you're not Negro, Black, colored, now that brings you into the families of nations. Because the families of nations don't identify themselves with labels. The families of nations identify themselves with nationality. All across the board, this is not a bias, this is just what it is across the world. Ask anybody, what's your nationality? They'll tell you. a place that ties them to a flag, to land, culture, etc. Ask our people, what's their nationality? Black, African, colored, ancient, whoever, that they can't prove that that's who they are and all that. The concept that we want to also enforce is that don't ever fall for somebody telling you some paper is going to get you freedom. Right? It's not necessarily the paper that frees you. Brother Omar always brings up and uses it as a point to stress that the paperwork itself is not going to be the thing that gets you out of what you're dealing with. It's going to be your mindset in using this, not specifically this. Question, bro. And if anybody else has questions or anything, just shoot them up.
When you talk about nationality, right, and black and African, right? America is one of the world leaders, right? And when Donald Trump called African countries shitball countries,
yeah,
right? The black people in America no see as affecting them as black people.
Right.
It's a them of Americans. They can affect Africans and Haitians.
Right.
Right. So if the world greatest power is American and all black people in there don't see themselves as Africans.
Yeah.
And see themselves as being insulted by the President of the United States.
Yeah.
By those it will take a time for you and for all of us to develop in the mind and the conscience, especially black Americans.
Right.
That they're Africans.
Yeah.
We got America. And we talk guys, and them the same self as Africans.
Yeah.
Them same self as Americans.
Right.
Right. So America as a leader of the world, the black people there, we have to see how we can make a transition.
Right.
In the mind and say the same self as African, as you said, as one nation.
Right.
Right. Me, as a Rastaman, as a servant of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, me say one Africa and one world and one everything. From the beginning. I'm still see now.
Right. Now, with regard to, for example, Haile Selassie, right? It was after he came to America and visited JFK is when they murdered JFK. Because JFK was trying to bring back the gold standard, right? When we checked the records, just like the brother was saying, going and do research, we found out that Haile Selassie was the emperor of Abyssinia, not Ethiopia. So as soon as we say, then just like you're saying, as soon as our people say the American powers are the ones in control of the world, that's not really how it is, because America is a continent. So it's not really a government that people can say is doing something to people. It's a continent. Just like Donald Trump didn't say Ghana's a shithole, Nigeria's a shithole, so, Congo's a shithole. He said African countries. Everybody over there knows that ain't Africa over there. Those are nations on a continent. We over here say, oh, Africa, African, but that's not how they talk over there. Over there, they say Nigerian, Congolese, or whatever. So there's a misrepresentation happening, but it's happening from our perspective because we lack certain knowledge because we don't research. Right? So when we look at American is the copper-colored natives who were in the Americas before the European came here. That's what American is. That has nothing to do with stars and stripes, presidents, Congress, and all that. That has nothing to do with that. The Americans are the Aboriginal people. The people who you're talking about is United States democracy. When we start calling them that, then we'll realize the shift happening. If we keep calling them American, then they keep getting the power of indigenous people, which is why they can say what they say. Because remember, these people are using sorcery with us. We think that Racism is some physical white man, black man, blah, 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 whatever. Right? Racism is psychological in dealing with them. Subjugation of people is psychological. It's not a physical thing that they're doing, even though blood might shed. But they're not shedding blood to kill this guy. They're shedding blood so that 50 generations, they're going to look back at the bloody guy and say, well, I don't know if I want to go through all of that. Because they're really dealing with psychology with us. So
that ties in with what he said about the fact that they're exterminating them.
Right, assimilate and exterminate is their position. Assimilate you. If you don't want to assimilate, then we'll take you out. But they can only do that if the people agree to be under that jurisdiction. So the Aboriginal people had to agree to be Indians to get treated like that. They had to agree that, you know, what the European says is the Aboriginal people's name is, right, what it is. Yes, bro.
I may interject. Just to follow up on the comment that my brother just made about our brothers and sisters in America. Clearly, they could not have been exterminated.
Right.
Okay? So, the fact that if in America, our people don't see themselves as part of the broader family, okay, it's because we've been assimilated.
Because they've been?
Assimilated.
Right, right. So,
as you're saying that, because they don't see themselves as part of the broader family, then it was as a result of them not being able to exterminate them. So the next best thing that we could have done is assimilate them.
Right.
In America, most of those people, they just think of themselves as Americans first. I mean, America as we know.
Yeah.
Not the America that used to
right.
In terms of the original.
The original, yeah.
Okay. And that's what it is. They don't see themselves as part of our large family. What affects our people on the continent doesn't affect them.
Right.
And they don't see how they could play a leading role in having effective changes in places that affects our people.
Right. Yeah. It's no different than with them looking at brothers and sisters in the North as not American because we're in Canada. Well, Canada is part of North America. So what do you mean we're not American? Why can't we unite on these grounds? Because European has wedged in our mind that we're this and we're this and we're that and we're there over there and we came from here, we came from there, we came from all these different places. But if we just did the research, we'll find out that we're global people. There's no one place that quote unquote black people are from. There's no one place in the world that say, oh yeah, black people all came from right there. That's a fiction. You know, but again, it's only like that to people who don't have the information, which is what Sis was leading to, that the people who don't want the information, they're outside doing whatever they're doing today. The people who are about the information, they're in here. So our attention should be what's going on here. And then from here, then we're the ones that would be the ambassadors of what the truth is, and then we take it out there to them.
Yeah.
Brother, sorry, brother. To add to what he's saying to you, he takes you back with this mindset, as your brother Bob Marley would say, emancipate yourself from that.
Mental slavery.
It's all a mental game. You gotta know to get out of that.
And it's not an overnight. It's not a, you know, this one session, we're gonna leave here like, yeah, we did it. You know, this is just, like brother said, we're just scratching the surface with this. You know what I mean? We're just scratching the surface. You gotta,
they always feel the ultimate goal face black people and the black nation is a united Africa, right? Marcus Garvey asked, where's our African president? Where's our African currency?
right, yeah.
Right?
Now again, it goes back to that thing, right? If we say where's our
we're African general, we're African foreign minister.
right, but look at this.
I know because we're the miles away from African unification. When was the last time the 52 states still like that? When was the last time 52 African nations still like that?
Yeah, but listen, those 52 nations were colonized. Those 52 if those 52 nations all come to the table to talk, they're going to be arguing the whole time. They're not going to be able to do nothing.
I know, but we have to start at one point. We start in the argument, then it start in a less argument, then it start in a
right. But look where it started. It started with Gaddafi, and look what happened to him. What you're talking about started with Gaddafi, bringing all these nations together to say, "Yo, why we need the Europeans for?" When we have one of the most resource-rich continents in the world. Oh no, it's never too late. Yeah, it's never too late.
It go way back before Gaddafi, right? It go way back to Marcus Garvey, go way back to Haile Selassie teaching.
Yeah, but I'm using Gaddafi because he's modern. Everybody knows him, and everybody knows that he was about unifying the continent. But why didn't it happen?
I thought of group of Africans guys, some from Somalia, some from Uganda. I'm just talking from Jamaica. Them say, Dre, if you know about African talking about unity, like them kill right away. Say
it again.
If you know about Africa and talk about African unification, them kill right away.
Yeah. Why is that? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because what really happened there? What really happened there was worse than what happened here. We're here complaining, but we have multicultural society here, where we can connect with any quote unquote countryman from Africa. Once we know ourselves, they know us. It's all love, it's all hugs and all that stuff, right? But like you're saying, we go over there, they're gonna say, "You're not from over here. You need to go back over to Africa," because that's real. They're not lying. Like we take it like they're denying us our culture over there. No, they're letting us know the real. We're not. Our ancestors are from over there, but we're American. Say that again?
If you go Ethiopia, the land is there. Depends on where you go. It depends on where you go. If you go Africa,
sure, but even if you go
Ethiopia, the land is there.
Even if you go to Tasmania, though, generations that are born on the land right now, they're still squatters. They don't have no quote unquote Ethiopian citizenship. There's still people that still recognize it foreign to this day. Just putting that out.
They don't recognize them as home in Ethiopia.
But they're not keeping up with.
No, they can't. But why? Because they're refugees. How would it look if they're kicking these people out when they said, "Well, we're coming over there because imperialism in America." Haile Selassie said for us to come to Shashamani, and then they go there, and then Ethiopians tell them, "Well, you can't really stay here like that because you're not from here." It's like the same thing with Liberia, right? Malachi York said, I'm from Liberia. I'm a national of Liberia. I'm from over there. You guys don't have jurisdiction. Oh, yes, they do, because Liberia was created by U.S. Liberia is not an African country. Liberia was a reserve, no different than they create the reserves or whatever here. They made a reserve to send black people over there because they're trying to get these true Aboriginal people off their own land. And then they bought it and went over there. So now European has a little bit more jurisdiction. And then they make these little treaties with the Indians, which really aren't treaties, because those people came over here on the Bering Strait. They're not even the natives. They'll tell you that themselves in their history. Oh yeah, we came here on the Bering Strait. Okay, well, clearly you're not native then. So who?
How did you make an agreement with someone when you can't even speak their language? How is there any kind of agreement? Kind of understanding.
Right, and that's what the brother was talking about with the assimilation, right? That they dumb them down out of their culture. Now they do these treaties with them, and then once they do the treaties with them, now European has them dancing because they already know that they don't have the authority or the jurisdiction or whatever to make these treaties. Right?
Definitions, but also have American.
Yeah.
This is American from the unabridged.
And just put it out loud.
unabridged Random House Dictionary of the English Language. American, adjective, 1. Definition number 1. Of or pertaining to the United States of America or its inhabitants. An American citizen. Definition number 2. Of or pertaining to North or South America. The American continent. Definition number 3. Of or pertaining to the Aboriginal Indians of North and South America, usually excluding the Eskimos, regarded as being a subdivision of the Mongolians and marked generally by the reddish, the brownish skin, black hair, dark eyes, and prominent cheekbones. Definition number 4, noun, a citizen of the United States of America. 5, a native or an inhabitant of the Western Hemisphere. 6, an Indian or North or South America. 7, a steam locomotive having a 4-wheel front truck, 4 driving wheels, and no rear truck. That's it.
Right, and as we know, as we're familiar with the 1936 Webster's, which is the definition of American being the various Aboriginal copper-colored peoples that was found here by the Europeans. So clearly, the Europeans are Americans, as they found the Americans here. So copper-colored, that's us. The penny, put it against the skin, you can see who the copper-color is. So definitely, we have our Aboriginal ties to this land that we need to explore more as a people to get the other half of the story, as we might say. So that's something we can look into.
Yeah, because it's a, you know, it's like when we talk about, when the brother was talking about the same thing with the assimilation, right? The whole idea is to get us to think that we're part of this great, because they recognize the Aboriginals, and then we put our card down, get taxes and all that stuff, when that's not part of the program. They are colonists. Pierre Trudeau is a colonist. This is not Europe. He can't be prime minister here. Prime minister is only in Europe. This is not Europe. So as soon as we say, oh yeah, prime minister, we just give them all the power.
We the people.
Because we are really the government. And we just gave our servants all the power to abuse us. Because we're saying that they are the prime whatever, when really, like we're saying, judicial notice and proclamation, judicial notice is really us. The judicial is really the Aboriginal indigenous people. And like we said, if they're going to say in the definition that it excludes Eskimos because they came over here from wherever else, which means that they're Mongolian, they're not really here. Everybody who calls themselves Aboriginal, indigenous, native, or whatever, that doesn't look like us, when you look at them, don't they look Asian to you? All of them, not some of them, all of them look Asian. So if they look Asian, then what does that tell them about what their origin is? Right? This is.
Anyone who's gonna live up in none of it, all them places, I call them original too, because I would be able to last up there.
Yeah.
So if you can take care of the land up there, sure, man.
Yeah.
You're doing well.
Right. But again, too, it's back to that thing of, you know, if you use the Bering Strait, that's right where your Northwestern Territories and all that.
Yeah.
Which is their ice jurisdiction, which, you know, I mean, only they could really be up there. Nobody else is really going to go ice fishing and all that stuff if they're, you know what I mean? Like, and actually have a culture where this is what we do. We go on the ice and then we do, right? This is what they do, right? But then again, when you look at them and then you look at people before the Bering Strait, you'll see that, like, there's people in Russia that look like indigenous people over here. But they also look like Chinese, right? And you're looking at them like, hold on a second, I thought you said that you're Russian or whatever. Yeah, I am Russian. But how come you look Chinese? Oh, well, you know, because we are together. This is all one. It's all one. It's all one place.
Like for example, maybe you have some relative over the other side there with the US.
Yeah.
Good. So I'm talking about America, like you said. If you check their ID, it doesn't say they're American.
It says they're U.S.
Doesn't
citizens.
say they're American. If you have relatives from so-called Jamaica that goes to so-called US, and they get a green card, the green card doesn't say they're American. Doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. Check it out. Ask any cousin, call him, phone him. What the ID said that? Like over here, or is the ones they have over here, it's a Canadian citizen. Ask them what they're saying. Sure not American. It's supposed to be American, but sure not.
Right.
Check it out.
Right.
Love.
Peace, peace. This is love. Peace, one. You had judicial? Anybody got judicial there? And judicial and notice and proclamation.
So I have judicial. I have judicial from the regular dictionary. Yeah. It's not much. I'm just gonna read it out. And I'm also reading from Black's Law as well. So once again, this is the dictionary that has been mentioned before. Adjective, pertaining to judgment in courts of justice or to the administration of justice. Pertaining to courts of law or to judges, judicial functions. Definition number 3, of or pertaining to a judge, proper to the character of a judge, judge-like, inclined to make or give judgments, critical, discriminating, judicial mind. 5, decreed, sanctioned, or enforced by a court. 6, giving or seeking judgment as in a dispute or contest. Terminative, a judicial duel over lands. 7, inflicted by capital G-O-D, inflicted by God as a judgment or punishment. So Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, judicial. Judicial, belonging to the office of a judge, as judicial authority, relating to or connected with the administration of justice, as judicial officer, having the character of judgment or formal legal procedure, as a judicial act, proceeding from a court of justice, as a judicial writ, judicial determination, involving the exercise of judgment or discretion, as distinguished from ministerial, of or pertaining or appropriate to the administration of justice or courts of justice or a judge thereof or the proceedings therein, as judicial power, judicial proceedings, State versus Fairtag, 53 adult. As to judicial, confession day, discretion, document, estoppel, evidence, factor, mortgage, notice, process, recurrence, sequestration, and writ. See those titles. As to quasi-judicial, see quasi-judicial.
Now also too, keep in mind what the brother was talking about assimilate or exterminate. This is their position, right? You heard it from the researcher himself. Assimilate or exterminate. So if that's their MO, when we start talking about you guys, we're actually the judges or whatever like that to these people. This is where they go in their mind. Oh, so you clearly want to be exterminated. Because the only option they're looking for is assimilate. That's where the people are supposed to be once they're under these colonial powers. You're not supposed to want freedom. You're not supposed to think, smell, hear anything to do with freedom. You're supposed to just be their ward at all times. What they say goes, nothing else goes other than you being their ward. Which is why it is important for us to get out of the mindset that we're calling them some American whatever when they're not Aboriginal Indigenous. We're calling them governments when they're corporations, they have founding dates, they have charters and all that stuff to prove that they're corporate entities. They're not really governments. When we look at the people who are claiming to be judges, they can't be a judge here if they're not Aboriginal and Indigenous. Those places that they make reference to that these people called judges are in courts. Those aren't courts. A court is society, which is another reason why we're taking the position of saying that this is a judicial notice, because we are taking the jurisdiction of the judge over and exercising the fact that we are the ones that recognize what court is and what government is and who has the power and whatever. Because when we go back again to the founding of this nation, Canada agreed, or Canada was supposed to agree to all the advantages of the Union, which is the Constitution, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, because Canada is part of North America. It's not its own jurisdiction above U.S. that they can do whatever they want because they're under the Queen. Or they have the claim that, oh yeah, we're sovereign, so we want nothing to do with Canada, but we'll be over here and we'll live French life and pretend that that's the authority. Because you can't be a sovereign if you're not in your jurisdiction. And even if you say Quebec, you're still talking about North America, which is Aboriginal Indigenous, not French, have some jurisdiction over here. Right? You got some more?
Just from the perspective that even
a little louder.
From the perspective that I'm talking about the judges, so-called judges of the courts here, if they're connected with the Bar Association, then you're taking, they're excluding themselves from the judicial power of the land, which is where the justice comes from, right? So as being part of the bar, they actually are part of the overthrow of justice here and the Constitution, right? That to me was an organization that's been put in place to undermine the justice system, right? Through the confusion that they are justice themselves, right?
And once the people agree that they're justice, then it's open season on your rights.
Well, they tie that in through the birth certificates and everything else.
And licenses.
That's made you corporate to begin
getting any type of corporate documents from them is what is giving them the power. Because remember that, the first brother was speaking about, right? Because notice how all this plays together. It's all about eliminating the middleman, so we can handle our own affairs. If this brother and the sister are together and they have a situation, we're gonna go call Mama Mocha to be the middle individual to speak. We're not gonna call Children's Services. We're not gonna call 911. We call one of our own to be the middleman. As soon as you bring them in, you're saying, I don't have the power, you have the power. As soon as you call them, oh, you can't handle your own stuff? All right, so then here we come, we'll handle everything for you because we know that you're wards, or you wouldn't have called us. Or minorities, right?
Minority, maybe you should find it in the doctor.
Yeah, we could do that too. You got notice there, brother? Proclamation, all right, yeah, hit proclamation.
Proclamation, the act of proclaiming or publishing, a formal declaration, an avowal, the act of causing some state matters to be published or made generally known, a written or printed document in which are contained such matters issued by proper authority. Also, the public nomination made of anyone to a high office, as such as a prince was proclaimed emperor. In practice, the declaration made by the crier by authority of the court that is something to be done usually commences with the French word, oh yeah, you hear ye, in order to attract attention. It's particularly used on the opening of the court and at its adjournment. It's also frequently employed to discharge persons who have been accused of crimes or misdemeanors. In equity practice, proclamation made by a sheriff upon a writ of attachment, summoning a defendant who has failed to appear personally to appear and answer in a plaintiff bill. And then it goes on.
Right.
Definition: proclamation by Lord of Manor, proclamation of a fine, proclamation of the right, etc.
So hit the first one again.
Okay, proclamation by Lord of Manor.
No, the first definition of proclamation.
Okay, The act of proclaiming or publishing.
Right.
Formal declaration.
Right? So this is what it is that we're doing when we have judicial notice and proclamation, that we are making a formal declaration to them, because their position is we are what they say that we are. And we're saying, no, because, you know, what you say that we are is wards of the crown. You say that we're minorities. You say that we're continents. You say that we're adjectives. You say that we're all these things that do not identify people. So we're going to do our own proclamation and let them know where it is that we stand with regard to our relationship with them. Yeah, and you tell us that we're 2/3 of a person, and then they don't tell you that the missing elements is our nationality and our religion to make us 5/5 of a human being. Right? They keep things to what they say it is. And we have to be the Aboriginal indigenous people again to start making proclamations and putting them on notice of our proclamations. Because for too long, we've taken the position of being their ward. And now they're comfortable with us dealing with them as a ward. Right? And keep in mind that, you know, when they say ward, always put in your mind warden. So if you're the ward, then somebody's the warden. And wardens only control prisons.
When they say municipal wards, like
right,
city divided for all these wards, basically it's a huge prison.
Right.
And you know, also I noticed with school boards, they got these trustees of the school boards, and they got specific people that they have holding titles for certain positions as trustees. Their wards, they have control over wards.
Over the ward, yeah.
Children are in this zone. So this is the trustee for Ward 9 and 10. So what are our children going to school to become?
Got it. And then remember, when they show you the map of the wards, right? The map of the wards the ward always is boxed in something. And then they're in that quote unquote zone. And then because you go there, because you live in that box, you can't go to school outside that box and all that type of stuff. What do you mean? That's up the street. I'm gonna go like this, and I'm in a different ward, but I can't go to that school right there, but I live right here. Right?
Yeah. Going back to what Marcus Garvey said, a race with power and authority. It's a race with respect, right? We as black people, we don't have power, we don't have authority, so therefore we don't have respect. The China man of China, okay? Right?
No, let him finish and we'll go right there. I get you, Alfonso.
China is big, and China is a world power. The Indian man of India. India is big, and India is a world power.
Hold on. Let him go. Let him get it out.
We have Africa.
Yeah.
Right? After all these years, still disunited.
Yeah.
We not take a step towards African unification. The reason why I mentioned that, I just show we just serve His Majesty, and His Majesty tell me Africa have to unite, and whether in my lifetime or after my lifetime, I hope my children can be African president, he has the African army, he has the African currency, he has the African nation.
Yeah.
And all we are fighting, all the great work we're doing here now to put things on the planet. If we don't have our nation state to defend, if America get captured in Jamaica, they send the American army or America to fight. If Canadian get captured anyway, anyway African get captured, this region, hey!
Right.
Now I said nobody to go rescue and capture.
Right. No.
Because we don't have a nation state. And what me asking, if you have Africa united and you have Africa as a nation, we should take another, maybe another 30, 40, 50, 200 years. Right? Right? Then, when you have African unification, then we have a nation with authority, and we have a nation with respect. Then we can reach out with people all over the world. Right? As it stays on the status quo now work, and the status quo now work for the next 50,000 years. And we are living status quo.
You answered your own question from the get-go, right?
No, yeah, go ahead, Mark, go ahead.
You answered your own question from the get-go. The first thing you said was Chinese. Well, if you see the Chinese in downtown so-called out here, they're still Chinese.
No, hold
on. Yeah, to get the concept, get the concept.
No time are they yellow. Okay, if you see people from India, right, whether it's Hindustan or Pakistan or whatever, right, at no time are they brown people. You know what I mean? At all times, they relate back to their national origin. But us being black, where's the national origin of black people? There is none. Because we're not black people.
Can I continue on your thought? So that's the landmass. Now let's go to the religion. In China, you have Buddhism, you have Taoism, you have many different religions, but those were two of the big ones that they can say culturally are theirs. Those are the knowledge that they held on to. In India, you have the sacred movement of yoga, you have
Hinduism, Brahmanism,
you have like
right.
Arabic eating, you have so many different teachings. So there's the religion too there and the culture for each, right? So for each one, you can go through every single one of these things that a person is supposed to have, and those examples that you gave us, each one of them has that. And I know someone's going to keep going. So I'll just leave it.
Right. Now, it is.
Yeah, so just a question for you, brother. What does an African look like? What does an African look like?
You.
That's it?
I mean, everybody says.
That's it? So, what about Tiger Woods?
You know, say about America,
what about
hold on. To me, if you ask me what that was, this Tiger Woods is Africa. But if you have Tiger Woods, who it is, that was probably going to say he's American.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people in that who call themselves African who look like David Suzuki or who look like an Indian person.
Because South Africa white people, so we now make a case that all Africans are black. I will never make a case.
Yeah, but it's so many different people inside Africa, and those people don't want to do those things that you want to see done in Africa. Then when is it going to get done?
United Africa. Who wants United Africa?
But how do you know those Indian heritage people and those European heritage people want the United Africa?
They don't want it, man.
Yeah, but they're African. They're African.
Yeah,
they're the Africans.
Get the concept.
They're the Africans. Have you ever met somebody who looks like Apu from The Simpsons, and is an African?
Yeah, man. It's talking about white person, yeah.
No, I'm talking about Hindustani, Indian.
Like somebody who looks dark, like a Hindu.
Like an East Indian person. Mahatma Gandhi. Like a Gandhi.
Yeah, man. Maybe where are people from?
Right. So when you ask them where they're from, what do they tell you? If you ask them if they're African, do they say yes or no? They claim Africa, do they not?
You know, most of the Africans ask where you come from.
I'm not talking about any African, particular African.
But I answer the question. I ask all African where you come from. Right? If you ask American, where you come from? They say from America. If you have African, where you come from? I'm from Nigeria.
Yeah.
I'm from Ghana.
Yeah.
Right? But Americans talk about America.
Yeah.
No other Africans talk about Africa.
No.
One at a time.
Yeah. We're good.
In this case of Nigeria.
Can I speak for a second? The title Africa that you're using, the people from that continent, do they call that landmass Africa? Or was it given to them?
If the land of Africa was
the name Africa.
This man is historical man. We don't know the historical.
Okay. I noticed that you're speaking from a place of a lot of emotion, right? And there's different people here giving you a concept, and you're kind of stuck on your concept.
So the reason why I threw that question at you is, you said when you meet so-called Africans, they tell you they're not African. That within itself.
No, I didn't say that.
You said when you ask them, are you African? They tell you they're Nigerian.
Yeah.
One moment, please.
Yeah, then I said Africa first, and say Nigeria first.
One moment, please. See, try to listen. They are indirectly or directly telling you they're not African. You, outside of that continent, which is what the brother was saying here, are identifying them as African, which is a European paradigm. That title is not ours. But yet you are trying to build upon something that's not yours, so it's not going to be done. You have to get yourself together first. And once we all get ourselves individually together and identify these issues, then you can sit at the table.
Like for example,
Where you're from?
I'm from Ghana. From since I've been a child here, I always been through that what you're talking about, where people come and say you're African. That's how we get. You don't look African. I go, what does an African look like? I'm not African.
He's from Ghana, he's in Africa.
But I'm not African.
He's Ghanaian. He's not African, he's Ghanaian.
But even before Ghana came, Ghana was called what? You probably don't know. It was called Gold Coast.
Like look at this. Look at it like this, right?
We gave that land mass, which is not even, it was pretty much the whole from Liberia all the way to modern day Nigeria. All of that was one people and one mass. If you go to Ivory Coast now, which is Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, French and English, same thing, right? There's the Akan people are there as well. 50% plus, which are the same people that are in so-called Ghana right now. You come over here to South America, northern part, which is Guyana and French Guyana, those same people are there. You go to Jamaica, those same people are there. So that's what you're saying. You're using European mindset to identify and saying, why aren't we coming to a resolution?
I'm a millions miles from a European mindset, man. Trust me.
Understand that the world knows that people come from countries, not continents. The world knows that. Only our people in North America don't know that because, like the brother said, we don't study. Okay, so we're going around saying we're African, we're American, we're Asian, we're whatever, which is a misconcept for as far as the world is concerned. They don't look at it like that. They look at it like what he's saying. I'm Ghanaian, I'm Nigerian, I'm Filipino, I'm Chinese, I'm Indonesian. They're not looking at the continent. We're looking at the continent because we have no culture. We've been stripped of our culture. Just like what you said, where's our nation state? That's why we put that flag up. Because that flag represents a nation. Right? So if that flag represents a nation that's known all around the world, and that flag used to fly in this land for 10,000 to 50,000 years, that means we have a nation state over here. We don't need red, black, green, and red, gold, green, and all that stuff as our flag. We already have our flag. But until we appreciate, just like the brother said, until we look at our own stuff first, and then go into all the other things are never going to make sense to us because we don't even know our own stuff from over here. We get caught up in all the other things and forget over here. That's like with the same thing that we were saying with Haile Selassie, right? He's emperor of Abyssinia. Abyssinia is before Ethiopia. That's a documented fact all across the world.
Abyssinia encompasses a whole big region.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say Abyssinia did not.
No, but that's not what I said though. That's not what I said. I said there's something before Ethiopia, Abyssinia. Before Abyssinia is Kush. And Kush took over what was a bigger jurisdiction than Abyssinia, right? But how come they won't go back to say Kush? How come they stop at Ethiopia?
Ethiopia means divided.
And then what did he say about our people? We don't know what's going on because all of us are divided. Because we're saying stuff. Africa comes from Farouk, Arabic word, which means to separate. So if we're saying that we're African, we're saying that we're separatists. If we're saying that we're separatists, why would we have unity? Why would there be unity with people who are separatists? It's a catch-22. We can't say that we're dark-skinned people one day, and then next day we're saying we're black people.
Yeah, but for me, I'm looking at the Arabic meaning as separatists.
No, that's what it is. This is not emotion. This is not us making up our own definition for what something is. That's what it is. If we continue to call ourselves that, like when they say the African continent, and then you look at a map, all you see is all these different places with the same thing around them, saying that this is what this country, this is that country. That's called separation, because everybody knows everybody over there is really on one place, right? Just like the brother said, whether you go to the west coast of Africa or you go to the east coast of Africa, you're gonna bump into somebody. Hey, what are you doing over here? Aren't you supposed to be over there? No, well, we're from all over this thing right here called Africa. We're not just remotely from Ghana or Nigeria or Sierra Leone or whatever like that. We look at it like that. Over there, they're from all over. Just like when we say that we're Moors, and then we say the Moroccan flag, everybody keeps showing us some pale people, and well, those are the Moroccans. How could you say you're Moroccan when they're the ones that are the Moroccans? Well, Morocco's in North Africa. Everybody knows dark-skinned people come from Africa, not pale people. So where are they in their mind? Which is what the brother was saying, not out of a disrespect or whatever, but because we've been colonized, because we've been assimilated, our mindset is what the European taught is what it is. And remember, majority of the people who we call our scholars of whatever, they went to some European school to go get their degree in African whatever. So if they went to the European school to get their degree, peace, man, right? If they went to the European school to get their degree, no wonder what we're taught is totally, we're all over the place. We don't have a strict rules of our history, where we come from or whatever. Our stuff is just whatever somebody says, oh yeah, that's our history. Somebody else, oh, that's our history. Like these people say now, oh yeah, Black Panther, oh yeah, that's our history. And now they're gravitating to that. But then they don't even, like, how's the comic book your history? What are you talking about? That's a comic strip. That's not the real people in the world that were doing something. That's a comic strip. But now that's our identity. And our people put 250 million to Disney, whoever else made that, right? But then we say that we're against colonial whatever. Well, you just gave European 250 million that they're going to use, like the brother said, like Noor was saying, that they're going to put you in mental slavery with. And this is across the globe that they're doing this, because slavery has really gone from shackles and chains to control people's mind. That's why we said the other day, everybody now, they have idiot box in their hand now. You don't even have to have cable. You can shut your cable off, still be a dumb Negro, just because of this idiot box right here. Right? So when we say, that we're taking this position of, judicial proclamation and all that stuff and teaching our people about it, whatever, we came up here 4 hours. Really, we came up here just for you. Right? You know what I'm saying? Earlier today, we went down to Parliament, right? All the Moors went down to Parliament just to get a picture. You know how when those situations happen, they say, oh yeah, we want to take a picture, give somebody their phone. Could you take a picture for us or whatever like that, right? We gave somebody our phone to take the picture, and there's people taking the picture with their own phone. Like, what are they taking? Why are they going about their business, and then they see some people taking a picture, and they're stopping to take a picture? Find me black people they do that to. They don't even do that to entertainers. They'll see an entertainer just passing in the street. Hey, that's so and so. You know, the groupie's gonna run up and they're gonna want to get a selfie or whatever like that. But majority of people, they don't pay those people no mind. Why is it that, you know, just walking, we're just walking on the street, right? And again, because of Moors taking the position of, you know, eyes open and we see everything, we don't miss stuff, right? Me and the Moors are building. We're building about, you see that guy over there, he was looking or whatever. You see that lady over there, she was looking like she almost walked into stuff looking. At us just walking down the street. We're not doing nothing, we're just walking down the street. How much people, ask the Moors how much people, oh, hi guys, morning guys. Hey, how you guys doing? Just walking down the street. They don't do that with black people. That's not something that they do. And we're talking about Europeans, Chinese, African, whatever, you name it. Everybody had a look, a stop, a stare, whatever, everybody. That's just what it was. Because we're making a proclamation by our presence. Forget some papers. Our presence is impacting these people in a positive, that they're recognizing that, hold on a second, these guys aren't the average black guys that we see around here doing whatever. Something's different about them. What's different? Because our energy, because of us having a certain degree of knowledge about who we are, which again goes back to this whole thing with, you know, this is, you know, me and Brother Omar were talking about that. Like you know, we want to go through this thing. It's like 6 pages. We even read the first line here. Yo, we didn't even get the first line. Look how much information we talked about, and we didn't even get to read the first line of this. We're still in the title. Right? This is how deep this is. You know what I mean? Again, and this is why, you know, like we always impress that, you know, look at the fact that, you know, we know that something's wrong with our situation as a people. We know that. But it's really gonna get fixed if we do. Right? Like, you know, for example, you might not know. There's Moors in here that they're standing up for their rights. They're getting pulled through the ringer by these Europeans. These Europeans stealing their property, kicking them out of court, kidnap them and all that stuff. You think that means that they're not standing up for their rights no more? You think that they're taking the coward position of, well, I'm not going to be doing with this because this doesn't work and all that type of stuff? That ain't what this is about.
I have a prime example over here.
You know what I mean?
My son, prime example. They kidnap him, take him in, they don't want to accept him for who he is, they call him John Doe. And at the end, when he goes to court, when he walked in and he see the justice of the peace, he wants to say, what the hell is that? I can't even talk to him. When he step up and started saying what he have to say, it's like what you see on the screen, we started telling that. He said, officer, could you please escort him over here for me, please? There he's sitting right there, ask him.
Right.
Escort him out to there.
A lot of people might hear him talking, eh? Start researching themselves.
No, it's like we were while we were coming up here, we were listening to some Moors in Chicago doing a lecture. And one of the Moors said, you know, our people are terrified of truth and standing up for truth and all that. And he was making the joke like, jail? That's what you guys are gonna threaten me with? You're gonna put me in jail? You guys don't want me to go to jail. Because everything I know, all these people in jail are gonna know. So you know, if you want to, hey, you please take me. Please take me. He was making the statement that just the fact that I'm talking about jail, some of you people in here are terrified. We're not even talking about going in there. We're just having a conversation about jail. People terrified. Oh my gosh, he said jail. I don't want nothing to do with this because they leave in the building. We have serious, serious work to do, right? And, you know, again, we took the trip all the way from Toronto, 4 hours, to support our brother who's been out here attempting to do this work, right? And then other people, you know what I mean? There's people from Ottawa that got fezzes and stuff like that know that they're Moors, that know their culture, that know their history. But if it's just 3 of them, like we said, we had, how much people did we have down? 12 people? When we went down to Parliament or whatever. You know what I mean? Right? That's different. Seeing 12 people walking with it is different than seeing 3 people or 2 people walk into a court and then they're going to a court, everybody's they didn't even, that stuff didn't even work because they whatever. But all these judges and all that stuff, they're going in their back rooms and stuff like that when they come to court and they're talking about, you know what, we don't know what to do, adjourn it, you know, send them back in 2 weeks or whatever because we don't even know what to do right now. Or you know what, just like what he said, you know what, just kick them out and we'll just go ahead with it without them here, you know, which is, you know, remember these people are, this is Justin Trudeau's people that you're going to have court, you're going to show up there, you're going to say something they don't like, and instead of them saying, oh, you know what, you're right, this is a court of law, scales of justice outside and all that stuff, so we deal with law here, they say, no, kick this guy out, we'll go ahead with the trial still, find him guilty, and send out a bounty man to go get him when they did a fraudulent act right there. And then everybody's down with it, like, yeah, they got that guy because all I want to do was just go pay my tickets. And I had to be in court all day because this guy just didn't want to say his name or whatever.
The slave name.
Right, the slave name, yeah. Right? Somebody had a hand up? Oh yeah, no, you're.
No, I was just saying because the situation with my son, it was actually they kidnapped him. They give him 9 tickets. 9 tickets. That's good. But anyway, when I went to the scene, they kidnapped me too. They kidnapped me too. When we go to the jail, they give him junior and senior. That's what they call us, John Doe Junior and Senior. But I reserve my rights when we get out. When I went to court now, I went before him the day before. Boy, I see another justice. I said, hell.
Oh yeah, just quick fast. Yeah. When they were together, but their court dates on different day.
Exactly. Different day.
How's their stuff on different day when they got drawn on together?
Good, different day. When I went in, it's the same thing. Just when I step up and I started to put it on him, he said, "Sir," he stopped me. I said, "Sir, you asked me a just like this. You asked me a question. If you don't want me to answer you, don't ask me nothing." Everyone looking at me. I said, "Don't ask me nothing. If you don't want me to answer you, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. I'm not the judge. I'm a justice at the peace. There's a judge in courtroom 501. I'm going to judge for your father. I think this is a joke. Just like that. Transfer my file. I go over there. I put that one in his place too. Put him in his place too. But you gotta know. You gotta know. And the only way to know is to study, because they never teach us that. They never teach us.
And this is the biggest thing with regard to you know, our people, like what you're saying, our people getting this information, right? The problem is that they're never going to go check for themselves. Our people want to be told something, but this is not about somebody told you, oh yeah, we got these papers or this card or this whatever. It's not about told. It's about, do you know or don't you know? If you don't know, then whatever. If you know and you start exercising certain things and these people realize that you know whatever, don't think that this is going to be throw some papers to them and oh my God, sorry about that, we didn't mean to whatever. These people are going to try to take your head because again, assimilate or exterminate is their policy.
So if you don't know, that means you're like a 3/5.
Say that again?
You're like a 3/5 if you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Forever. And then that passes down to generation to generation to generation. Yeah. That they come out the womb 3/5. As soon as they got out of the womb, what vaccination? Bam, they're 3/5 for at least the next 10 years just because of the vaccination.
Algeria, I just stepped outside to the washroom. I met this guy and his coach, student. And we meet. He said, "Nice to meet you, sir." I said, "Not a good word to say." He said, "Yeah, it's a good man. It's nice to meet you." I said, "No, get on your phone. Look for the word nice." Just a minute you see I walk out the door. That's what happened outside. I said, "Go on your phone. Look for the word nice." He found it. He was shocked. He was shocked when he found it. Means you're stupid. You guys go on your phone, you'll find it too.
No, that's him dealing with, and I'm sure the Algerian wasn't dark skinned or whatever, pale European looking, right? And he's telling him, "Oh, wow, you try to tell that to some of our people, see what happens to you. They'll tell you that Jesus told them nice is a good word and all that stuff, take you in the back, beat you up, just because they don't know. Even though you put them on, they still don't know." So, right? So again, like we were saying, we went to Parliament today. It was freezing and all that stuff, but it was for those people out there to get their picture. It wasn't even for us. We just got, we got our picture too, you know what I mean? But really, it was for them people to see what's really good. Because like we said, we came here. We didn't come here to fill up all these seats or whatever like that. We came for the 1 or 2 people who are on the mind frame, who something's tingling in their brain or whatever, that made them say, "You know what, let me go check this thing out and see what's really going on, see if I could get some info." And then we go from there with the people who we know that are on this information to let's get some stuff done, right? And again, with regard to notice, I drove around, or when we drove around, everywhere you see construction, before the construction, there's a thing saying, "Oh, up there's construction." That's notice. Now, if you decide to go that way, mess your car up and all that stuff like that, you're not suing them because your struts got messed up because you went on the road that they had the big ditch in the street or whatever like that, because they gave you notice. And people are going to accept the fact that, oh yeah, that's right, I didn't actually see that sign, my bad, I should have been being more observant or whatever like that to see that, there's a sign there that said whatever. Same thing that we're doing, putting these people on notice. Just like they put you on notice when they say town hall meeting for the city of Ottawa. Going to be down at, whatever they're doing it, wherever they're doing it, city hall or whatever like that. There'll be a poster saying notice. Anybody's available to come to this, the time, the date, whatever. Same thing that we're doing. So what are we putting them on notice of? We're putting them on notice that we are not their ward, that we have 6 pages of information that they can go research, they can go check, they can go fact check, they can double check, triple check, quadruple check, just to see if this is legit. And once you put these people on notice, that's just like them putting you on notice. And you're not expecting anything from them after, it's a notice. Well, just like them, I just put you on notice. So as soon as they start doing things contrary to the notice, then that lets you know that you're obviously in the right place. You've obviously done the right thing. Because, like the brother's saying, when we start exercising certain rights and, we think back to when we were in the dumb down mindset, things that don't really go how they go when we have this mindset that we have. It's a totally different world. Things are totally different. People might see us and say, "Oh yeah, we're the same people," or whatever, just like people say, all of our people are Moors because we're all dark skinned or whatever. Well, if they didn't do a notice and proclamation, technically they're not really, by blood they're that, but if they're not proclaiming it, they're not really that. They can't talk about rights and certain things, constitutions, and you're violating me and all that stuff if they didn't let these people know, "Oh, don't forget I'm not your ward." Which is why we're able to stand up for what it is, which is why we're able to go out and people take pictures of us, but no other Asiatics that are around.
Yeah.
It's not like we were the only dark-skinned people out there. There's other dark-skinned people out there not getting pictures. And then those dark-skinned people are saying, hey, hold on a second. How come these guys just came out here? We've been standing out here all morning freezing or whatever. These guys just came out here and all these people crowding around them taking pictures. Hey, how you doing? Nice hat and all that type of stuff. Oh yeah, thank you very much. You know, it's not a hat, but whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's known. All we have to do is proclaim it. And the more of us proclaim it, the harder it is for them to stop it. Right? Like we say all the time, if everybody who had a ticket went to court and said, no, I don't think that I'm going to fight this ticket, you think these people will be able to give people tickets? If everybody said, when I get one, you know what? I'm fighting this. Forget pay this. Regardless of what their mindset is. Whether they got fez, turban, call themselves Hebrew, Moors, whatever, it doesn't even matter. They got a ticket, they say, you know what? Check the back, I'm fighting this. We'll go to court and see what happens. These people would lose maybe 3/4 of their finance. Truth. Because all these places that's called court is really about finance. So they just want to get anything. So your $50 ticket, or they'll say, just give us 20. $500 ticket. Oh, well, 20 people had $500 tickets. All of them said we're going to challenge it. Okay, give us $10.
Make it easy for you. They say like, give me $2 a month.
Yeah.
If 6 months pass and you don't finish, come back, I give you extra.
The extra time. Just so that they can get their little cut. Right? And again, like the reason for this is because we know about the criminal activity that has been taking place by people who have not made a proclamation or a declaration of who they are to these people that are quote unquote colonists, that are inquisitionists, that are mercenaries, and then you have this thing of they have their proclamation, for example, Black identity extremists. That's their proclamation that they're making, saying, oh well, we proclaim that anybody who talks about rights, law, sovereignty, whatever like that, they're Black identity extremists, and they fit under this thing, right? Nobody said anything about it. Everybody did their emotional, oh, they're racist and but nobody really did anything about it, so it still stands. But then when you go check, we just uploaded a video of Congress or whoever challenging the FBI on, what do you mean Black identity extremists? Because there's white ones. Like, how come you guys don't have a white identity extremist manual? There's more Europeans killing people than anybody else. Oh, well, we never really checked that out yet. You know what I mean? We hear what you're saying, but, and then they start playing this little game. Because they already know that there's no such thing as Black identity extremists, because really, Black, the etymology of Black is pale. So they're really talking about Europeans in there. But then all the Black people are getting mad.
That's our word.
That's ours. What, they can't do that to us or whatever. They're not even talking about you, Negro. What are you talking about? You have nothing to do with this. You're not Black. Yes, we are. We are whatever. That's like what you're saying. You guys are not African. What do you mean you're African? Yes, we are. We came from Africa, and our ancestors came from Africa and all that. Let's go at your ancestors if they came from Africa. And then we go back in time or whatever. Hey, ancestors, are you guys African? I bet you the answer is going to be, no, we're not African. And then now what? Because if the ancestors tell you, you got to go with that because that's the ancestors. They should know whether they're that or not. You go back there, they'll tell you about so much different names that this continent was called that you'll throw Africa away for some of these other names that they said that the stuff is called. You know what I mean? Because you realize that what these people have been proclaiming, what these people have been putting out as written documents or facts, it's not really facts. These people's opinion. An opinion is no proof of truth. There's no truth in opinion. That's just somebody just, well, I think that's what it is, so.
His story.
Right? And the ones who don't know, they go with it. As, yeah, maybe that guy's right. He has a degree and he has stuff like that when these people are playing them. You know, because what are they getting them to do? Assimilate. Once they assimilate, then of course they can't exterminate them, because the assimilated people are the people who keep the machine going. That's right. The assimilated people, the ones who say, you know, instead of put finance towards, you know, doing something for the community, right? Instead of saying, you know what, let's all get together and do a community cleanup to clean the place up. They want to do that. They want to, let's unify and go to a barbecue. Let's unify and go do something that has nothing to do with our people's upliftment or our people's liberation or our people's, you know, self-sufficiency or anything. They're moving towards things that are illusionary. And you know, just like with people mad because, you know, oh, this guy brought hologram of people on stage and all that stuff, people are mad. Oh, they're mad. And that's what you signed up for. Well, what more do you want from the B system? Do you really think they're going to give you the real? Do you really think they're going to bring Tupac from Cuba or whatever like that? You know, you said Machiavelli for a reason, because Machiavelli, the guy who claimed that he killed himself, and he didn't kill himself. He was under a palm tree somewhere. Because you already know that these people trying to take you out. But if you go with the illusion, if you go with the fiction, if you go with the things that aren't real, then you leave yourself open to get attacked by these people. And again, remember, like, you know, it's a very trying task to wake up our people where they are right now in their mind. It's a very trying task. There's too many things that others are using to keep our people dumbed down for us to go get them. And again, they're not going to go check for themselves. They want to be told something. And then when they get told, they're not going with it if it comes from their brother. If it comes from the people who know, just like we're saying, the brother was talking about researching. Steve. And the Moors, yeah, Steve. The Moors, Steve Drake. The Moors in the chat are going nuts. Moors chat going nuts. Oh my gosh, this is like, you can't wait for this, because Moors do research. So they realize that, well, it doesn't matter if black, Negro, color, whatever like that. What's the information that he's presenting? Doesn't mean his name's Dred and Steve and all that stuff. We don't care about that. What information he got? Oh, he's talking about research? Hey, well, that's something that Moors do. I just made a funny about people should take notes, and Moors are here taking notes and all that stuff. And these people are cracking. Because they recognize that, hey, well, you know, that's really the unity. It's putting the energy, putting the mindset, putting the things together. It doesn't have to be, you know, everybody in the same whatever. Or we say, you know, our people need whatever, so we're gonna found some city down there, and then all the people, let's go to that city, and once we go there, then we're gonna be free or whatever. They tried that with Black Wall Street. That didn't work. Everybody going to one place or whatever. How's that gonna work when everybody's in the one place? One bomb kill everybody. How about go some other places than everybody going to one place? How about don't put all your eggs in one basket? You know, put some eggs over there. So if something happens to those ones, then you got some more to fall back on. But you know, again, common sense. Our people don't have certain things, right? So this is something that you can get on rvbaypublications.com. You can go, you know, I mean, check, read it or whatever. But we'll go through some of this, so you can hear what's being said. So you would see, upon my inherited nobility, and upon my private allodial indigenous proper person status and commercial liability, I, your free national appellation here, so free national appellation here is the name that, not the name that you were born with, right? Because when we say that we're making a proclamation, it has to be done in the status of someone who has the status. So minor can't do a proclamation because minors can't make contracts. If you call yourself minority, then we're saying that we're a minor. If we're a minor, then that means we're a child. If we're a child, then we can't do a contract. So it doesn't apply to us, right? If we're saying our name is Smith, Jones, Johnson, Jeffrey, Williams, that's Dred Scott case 2018. That somebody called themselves Scott, but then they're saying, I'm in a free state, so you can't do nothing to me because I'm in a free state, but your name's Scott. What do you mean we can't do nothing to you when you have our name? So part of the judicial proclamation is having free national name. Free national name, for example, I'm Kudjo Adwo L. Kudjo Adwo is a Khan for Monday born, male and female name, because at the time I was studying metaphysics and realized that, you know, man is woman and man. So it made sense to me, okay, well, I should have a male name, female name. And then the L is one of the titles, which are titles of nobility are El, Bey, De, Al, and Ali, which also goes back to the 5 civilized tribes that these people say are the 6 nations. But then they don't show us. They show some Europeans. And then when they say 6 nations, what they really mean is the 6th nation. Because the 5 civilized tribes of the Moors are really the nations. Those later people that are here now that say that they're the natives, they're the 6th nation. Not 6 nations as in, oh yeah, these guys and these guys and these, and then there's 6 tribes. That's not what that is. They're 6 in line. They're late to this continent as being whoever. So if you go, if you know people from Guyana, the name Day is in Guyana. We're dark-skinned people. Right? Now, Day is a Moorish name. Right? So if that family name is of people on this side that are from Guyana, and we're saying that that's one of the 5 civilized tribes of the indigenous people, and we're saying that Americans are the indigenous people who were here before the European came here, and Guyana is in South America, then Guyanese aren't really Guyanese. They're natives. They're Aboriginal and indigenous. And they got the name Day over there, which means that they're really not Aboriginal and indigenous, they're Moors. Yeah. So the 5 points on the star is equal to, you know, arm, leg, arm, head. It's also the 5 civilized tribes, El, Bey, De, Al, and Ali. Right? And again, when we look at that flag is something that's been flying in this land for 10 to 50,000 years. But then they have the reconstruction of history, where they took the Aboriginal people, called them all these different names, which is why we're doing the proclamation, because we're bringing back this mindset that don't think that there's no Aboriginal indigenous people, the real ones. There might be fake people out there say that they're Native Americans or whatever, but don't think that there's no people who are the real Aboriginal indigenous people. Because the real Aboriginal indigenous people are the so-called Negro, Black, Colored, African, Canadian, African American, who don't know themselves. And they're under the assumption that they're something that they're not. Right? So your free national appellation here, being duly affirmed under consanguine unity, pledge my national, political, and spiritual allegiance to my Moabite Moorish nation, being the archaic Aboriginals. Right? Not the Aboriginals that they're just saying today are the Aboriginals. The ancient Aboriginals, we're them here again. And again, by making that claim, people are going to be mad. Because we're supposed to be black people. We're supposed to be Africans, came over here on a slave ship. We don't know anything about Aboriginal culture. We came over here on a slave ship. We lost our culture and all that type of stuff. When half these people, you ask anybody who is in North America that they say came over here on a slave ship and is classified as African or whatever. You ask them when they were sick and their mom said, you know, come here, let me hold your nose and put this stuff in your mouth or whatever, make you better. They didn't get that stuff from Africa. They got that stuff from right here. There's a bush right over there. They told you go pick and go boil that. They didn't say some African bush you need to go talk to the importer to go get the bush from Africa or whatever. They go right in the backyard, pick something. Right? Yes, sis.
Professor, for the sake of clarity, maybe call the people who are here original and call the ones that you're speaking of Aboriginal, as in not original.
No. Word Aboriginal means that's Aboriginal.
Yeah.
From
AB originals, like AB originals, let's say that, right? Like brother saying, ab, from, father, you know, original. We always say we're using Aboriginal, we're using indigenous, and we're using indigene, and we're using autochthonous. So that way there's no confusion as to, you know, what level Aboriginal we're talking about. If you say Native American, that could be any people. If you just say Aboriginal only, that could be people who just claim that. If you say indigenous only, that could be people who just claim that, right? But once you start, you know, using all the terms, just to be clear, right? Not as, you know, that's who I am, because we know that we're Moors. We're not really Aboriginal like that, or indigenous. If we say Moors, that stresses the point as to who we are, because we're not just talking about over here, we're talking about over there as well. Whereas when you say, you know, if you say Aboriginal to somebody Ghanaian, Nigerian, they're talking about just there, right? Because they would say indigenous culture over there. They would say indigenous Africans. Africans have indigenous culture in, you know, whatever country over there. So always attempt to remember to use more than one of those Aboriginal terms. Oh yeah, and American too is on there, right? And then if we put it up again, Aboriginal, indigenous, indigene, autochthonous, and American, you have the 5 again, right? Standing squarely, affirmed upon my oath to the 5 points of light, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which also is the 5 points on the flag. Do squarely affirm and tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And having knowledge and firmly established belief upon the historical, lawful, and adjudicated facts contained herein, being competent in my own proper person to attest to this affidavit, upon which I place my signature, whereas I state, proclaim, and declare the following to be true, correct, certain, complete, not misleading, supreme, and not intended to be presented for any misrepresented, colored, or improper use or purpose to wit. That I, free national name, am a noble of the Al-Moroccan Empire, which again goes back to the flag, which again goes back to the African culture, because we know that the Moors were the custodians of African culture. When all the cultures that are classified as African fell, when all the cultures fell, the Moors were the custodians of those cultures, right? Meaning that they were the ones who kept the records. This is why when you go into European history, they are, you know, one side is extremely grateful and one side hates the fact that the Moors are the ones who civilized them. You're going to get some Europeans that you talk to and they'll lay it down on you about history of the Moors and all that stuff. More stuff than you think that you know something about Moors. These Europeans tell you some stuff about Moors. And then you have the ones who hate it. The fact that you're saying that you're a Moor, they're like, you know what? None of that. Like they're saying, kick the brother out of court, kidnap people, do whatever, just for saying that. But then in the background, they'll tell you, you know, well, you know, just get a license and we'll throw all this stuff out. Just say you're black, and we'll get rid of everything. We wouldn't even give you any community service or nothing like that. Just agree with the status quo. Once you assimilate, now they know that they have the energy. And they're going to be using the same energy that you just gave them by assimilating against you being assimilated. They're not going to take the energy and go subjugate somebody else. They're going to take that and keep you in subjugation. Just because you gave them the authority, you gave them the power, right? And if anybody has any questions or comments, just throw them up. A noble of the Moroccan Empire, North America, in propria persona, in my own proper self, being Moorish American, a descendant of the ancient Moabites, Moors by birthright, freehold, primogeniture, and inheritance, being aboriginal and indigenous to the land, South Americas, territorium of my ancient Moabite, Moorish foremothers and forefathers. Al-Moroccan continents are the land of the Moors, being North America, South America, Central America, including the adjoining islands. Including the adjoining islands. And again, going back to that thing that when you go into all these so-called West Indian scholars, Eric Williams, who's that? Rogers, Van Sertima, that once they were dealing with the dark-skinned people and the Americas, they had serious problems with regard to their careers or whatever. Right? They were trying to shut these people down because they're not teaching the status quo that the black scholars are supposed to be teaching. That we came over here on slave ship and that's all we know. That's our only stuff. We're the most ancient people and our only stuff is we came over here on some slave ship. Yeah, Mark.
It's so funny. We say let's agree we come over here on the slave ship. Let's agree to that. We come over here on the slave ship. I messed up. Why don't you deport me back to Africa? You send me to so-called Jamaica.
Right?
Why don't you send me back to Africa? I messed up. Send me back to Africa. Why don't you do that? No, because they know I'm not from there. Simple as that.
It's that simple. Right? And again, the whole concept is why prisons are full here with only our people. Because they don't want to be in their own land. They want to say that they come from somewhere else. All right, well, if you come from somewhere else, then that means you're a refugee. They don't people know giving no refugees in the world no good treatment. Nowhere. Right? Now, you know, people who have certain contracts with certain political powers, they would be able to do that. Like the Syrians that came here as refugees. And they're coming off the plane to the airport to jackets and houses and whatever and all this type of stuff. And then there's people here that they're not even taken care of like that. But these people who aren't from here, right? Remember, it's the whole concept of the minority and all that stuff. So, you know, when we look at the Syrians coming here and getting stuff from Canada, they're taking from somebody to give them. Who do you think they're taking from? Canadians? They're taking from all the wars. They're making it a point to take from the wards. Right? It's like when we went to, the brother wanted to use the PowerPoint or the projector. So we had to go and get some adapter BS, right? So we're in there, we're trying to get the taxes off or whatever. Like, I don't know, you need your stuff that says from Canada because we don't recognize this. We need some card from Ontario or whatever, right? So we're not going to give you taxes off. But, you know, if you don't like what it is, you know, you can just return it. We'll give you your money back. Oh, all right, well, you know, here's the stuff. You know, forget taxes or whatever like that. We'll just bring the stuff back. Like, it's not, you know, we could have stayed there, fought it, been in there arguing with them about, well, you need to take the taxes off. Why didn't you take it off and all that stuff? Call the manager and all that. You ain't got to do all that because stuff's coming back anyways. Whether it worked or didn't work, stuff was coming back. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm done in 15, so yeah. Right. The Almoroccan continents are the land of the Moors. I have acknowledged, claim, and possess by said inheritance and primogeniture the freehold status thereto, all unalienable and substantive rights to be, to enjoy, and to act distinct in my aboriginal customs and culture. So when we go back to the nations of the world, all the nations of the world, including Canada and U.S. now, signed on to the Aboriginal rights of the rights of a child, the human rights, and the rights of Indigenous people. So as Aboriginal and Indigenous people, we have a right, for example, to identify ourselves. That we don't have to listen to these people say you're whatever, right? We can object. Oh, sorry, objection, Your Honor, because I'm not Negro, black, color, and all the stuff that you're talking about. I got judicial proclamation. Here's the receipts that I sent it to all these people or whatever like that, including your superiors. They didn't give you the notice or whatever. Oh, no problem. I got one right here for you. There you go. So you know. Because you might not be able to, you know, let everybody know your proclamation because of the corruption. Because when we go with this document, right? Because it's a judicial notice, because it's a notice, the principal or the agent is supposed to pass this on up the ladder or down the ladder. That's how it's supposed to go. But because of corruption, it's not going to go like that. So, you know, you might make copies of this and send to, you know, CSIS, Prime Minister's office, Attorney General's office, Governor General's office, the Queen, whoever the sheriff is around here, you know, MP, mayor, whoever. You just send it to whoever you think needs to know that you made this proclamation. But you might not get to send it to everybody, right? For whatever reason, right? So you always have copies. So as soon as you buck up on these people, just letting you know, because I know I didn't get to let you know. Right?
Kind of like the blockchain thing the brother was talking about in the beginning. Decentralize your proclamation.
Decentralize your proclamation. Right? Taking the opportunity to make sure everybody knows.
I have a copy here. First, take a look at it.
And again, remember that you know, okay, well, let's go into it at this part right here. And determining my own political, social, and economic status of the state, turning my heart and mind back to my ancient mothers and fathers, Moors, by divine and natural right. Being Moorish American, we have and possess the intentionally recognized rights to determine our own status of the state, absent of threat, coercion, or acquiescence to a color of law, a color of office, nor to be subjected to any imposed color of authority. So color of law, color of office, color of authority is what we're up against, right? And then the reason that, you know, we have to recognize our rights and determine our own status of the state is because under color of law, color of office, and color of authority, they're going to be the ones assuming who you are, what your rights are, whether you got rights and whatever else, right? And under color of office, color of law, and color of authority, that's not de jure. It's colored because color means fake in law. So fake law, fake office, fake authority is really what we're up against. And just like if we realize that, hold on a second, like, you know, I did my research or whatever, I'm not Smith. The hell am I Smith? But, you know, it doesn't matter. And then you still keep going on Smith, they got you. Just like if you say, oh, authority, oh, they got some authority? Well, yeah, we are the whoever. Well, Canada doesn't have a constitution. What authority you guys got? Because the British North American Act is not a constitution. That's an act. And an act is not law. Now, if Canada knows that they don't have a constitution, how do they have citizens? How do they have, you know, governmental offices? How do they have these things? All under color. And the people, in their ignorance, make the color be something. Right? That's how they get the authority. That's how they get the office. Like, for example, a color of office, for example, a color of office is like in Toronto, they say office of the sheriff. But then when you go there, it's a Toronto Police Highwayman. It's not the sheriff that's there. Because that's just an office that's just a door that says sheriff on it. But it's not really a sheriff office because, you know, it's not a sheriff that runs it. Color of law. You know, one of the ones that we use all the time is the whole issue of driving versus traveling, right? On the color of law, anybody behind the wheel needs a license. From a de jure perspective, only somebody who is making some type of finance behind the wheel needs to have a license. Everybody else, I mean, they're exempt from licenses. Because the license, it means that you're a taxi driver, bus driver, truck driver, or whatever like that, and you're under the obligation, right? Color of authority, like we were talking about earlier. Brother Noir, Junior and Senior went to court, and the judge, the magistrate said, "Oh, I'm not a judge, I'm a justice of the peace." Judge is right over there. So what about all these other people who've been coming here all day? Like thinking that they're going to a judge because he has a green sash or a red sash, and they sit there, "Oh, please stand," and they stand and they think that, "Oh yeah, that's the guy." When the actual judge is around the corner in some room, you know, with 2 pews or whatever like that, and you know, only special cases get heard in those rooms, right? So again, you go to rvbaypublications.com, you can download the judicial proclamations just so that you can go over go over the literature.
What's the website?
RV Bay Publications. RVBEY Publications.com. And there's proclamations. There's a proclamations page and a name correction page. And again, the whole concept is that now we'll just skip down to the end just for. So when we go down to the end, you have the signature. You have the signature line for yourself, I am, and then you have your free national name there. And then under that, you have the vizier or minister, and then the two witnesses. So let's say, for example, it's happening out here, right? I am would be you. Vizier or minister would be the quote unquote authorized representative of yourself, somebody who represents you in a higher status than yourself. So out here, for example, Brother Alfonso would be vizier. And then you would say, okay, brother Negus, and you know, the other brother is going to be the witnesses. And then they witness. Right?
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Right? It doesn't have to be, you know, it could be somebody else is the vizier and Alfonso is the witness and Negus is the witness or whatever. Right? But you're doing this because you recognize yourself. It's like you want to make sure we tell people to get Morals and Masonry by Brother Abdullah Bey, because this book would clear up your concept with regards to who has the authority, right? Who is really in power. So when we go into Morals and Masonry, what he breaks down is that when you go into all the lodges and you check the titles that all the lodges are using, they're actually using titles from the Moorish government. When you go to the quote-unquote government people, they're using titles of the Moorish government because they could only exercise what they're exercising if they pretend to be Moors. Which is why all these people are Masons in secret. They don't really talk about it or whatever, because really they're pretending to be Moors. But they can only pretend to be Moors if Moors don't know who they are. Moors want to be black and all that. As soon as, you know, just like we were saying with the tickets, as soon as everybody says, oh, every ticket we're fighting, then they have no tickets. As soon as everybody stops the black whatever, right? And then, you know, not with the brother that left, right? Not a slight on him, but that's how our people's mindset is. He's one of millions that this is where they're at, that we can never let go of the labels. That the labels keep coming up. That's how we know that it's a spell. That's how we know that these people are doing sorcery on our people. That this is not about some subjugation or some KKK came and they burned the cross and all that. I don't know what this is about. It's about getting our people's minds. Once you have their mind, you have the body. And they don't even know that their mind's gotten, then they'll do whatever with their body. Because they really think that it's nothing to do with them. But it has everything to do with them. Their suffering has everything to do with them. If anybody knows, there's this European by the name of Bill Bunting on YouTube. Right? So Bill Bunting, right? So Bill Bunting put out a video a couple of days ago talking about who suppressed the original Hebrews or whatever like that. You know, and all the black guys are like, yeah, he's gonna talk about, you know. And he's like, no, Hebrews suppressed themselves. Like, it's the Hebrews who chose to go against God's covenant and go do some BS in jurisdictions that they didn't belong in, which is what got them whatever it is that they got. But some European did something to them, And really what he was talking about too, he was talking to quote unquote black people as a whole that are playing this game that somebody did something to them without taking responsibility that, oh yeah, it's because of ourselves why we're subjugated. There's a brother right there from the continent. He'll tell you, Africans sold their own people into slavery. Only some Europeans, but everybody's gonna point at some European did something, right? So the whole idea is all get into the thing of we're starting to handle our own affairs. Again, it's not going to be something that happens overnight, but the process could start, that we start handling our own affairs. We got an issue, call our brother, let's work it out. Instead of call this highwayman. You know what I mean? You know that it's a Asiatic that's, you know, somebody who looks like us that's upstairs, and you hear, you know, their child crying funny. They ain't call no CS. How about go knock the door, see if everything's straight? Because as soon as you make that call, these people are looking at it like, oh, they still don't want to handle their own affairs. So we need to be here so we can assist them in handling their affairs that they should be handling for themselves, but since they won't, then we'll handle it. And us handling it is, you know, take the dad, put him in prison or whatever, take the mom, put her on some type of program, so we, the government, could become the dad now, right? They have the dad going through some trial, some case or whatever like that, you know. They have the mom in the jurisdiction, and then now family separated. Right? Of course, children got taken. Children are taken somewhere else. They're taken into some home, some pedophile or whatever like that. And again, people blame the European. No, I don't blame that Asiatic that called and said, hey, I hear something next door. You should come check, because they didn't have enough courage to go knock the door and assist their brother or sister. Right? So just before we close out, we just want to open up for any questions that people might have. You can throw out any questions that you got, anything that, you know, talked about or whatever. Open floor, especially the new people. Or Alfonso, I don't know if there were any questions that you might have heard around the way that people might have had or whatever.
In New York.
Yeah.
How many questions about this? Good morning, but we know you're very
I'm just looking at the whole process that the infrastructure which is missing is for us to be centralized. That means we wouldn't have to send out all those documents if there was only one spot to call to verify them. Right? So because that's not there, then we have to go the long way, which is to provide as much documentation
I can.
Need to be notified. Right? So it wasn't really a question, it was a awareness that usually if somebody stopped you, said just call me up. Like you use the word call my lawyer. Yeah. See, you don't just call my lawyer.
Yeah.
I get him on the phone. Here, stop. So it just worked for us to be done. And I'm okay with doing the work, just actualization that has to be done.
Yeah.
Because we have to have centralization.
But again, too, you know, the whole the concept of decentralization is not necessarily for them to be able to have somewhere to contact. It's really for the people to have somewhere. You know what I mean? Have the body, because trust me, if it's no benefit to them, they're not calling. No. It's no different than when we send these proclamations out. They're not replying back saying, oh yeah, I got your stuff. I just want to let you know I got the stuff. You know what I mean? Thank you very much. You know, I'll contact whoever. They're not even going there. Because once we pointed out that we know that these people are a fraud, now they're in a messed up position because they got called out. It's just how much people are behind the call out. Yeah. Is it just one individual behind the call out, or is it like what we're saying with having the witnesses that, you know, this individual said, I have whatever situation that they're dealing with, and 500 people backed them. When it was time to stand up and say, okay, well, prove to me that you are a nation or whatever. And they go to court and it's only their people there.
Yeah, that's what I really think.
Right?
Decentralization for us, but it goes on the other side too, because the pressure has to be applied on the other side.
Right. Well.
The body then apply the pressure.
Like we found out with a brother dealing with some issues, that once you deal with them and the truth, they're either gonna fight you harder or they're gonna yield immediately. Which is really what we want. We don't really want any dialogue with them. We just want them to know, oh, when they see us, oh, you guys are, okay, sorry, didn't mean to do that. And they go about their business, right? But that's only gonna happen with, like when you're talking about decentralization, everybody who's part of the cohesive mindset are all backing each other with whatever it is going on. It's never one individual on their own, right? Because again, the whole theme of decentralization is really for us to get ourselves organized, for us to put ourselves in the position that when it's like Brother Tosh Bay says, like, you want to bite, but you want to bite with teeth, not gums.
Yeah, that's right. This is a de facto government.
Because, right? Because they're expecting the gum bite. They already know. They'll put their hand out. You can bite me, I don't care. Because they already know it's gums. When they realize that, okay, your bite is going to be real, trust me how fast they move their hand. Right? Right? I'm shut down now.
I have a comment that made mention that as a people, we have to know these things for ourselves, as much as we hear good words, from Grand Chief Kujo, well, we must look into it, study for how you know how your mindset was before you heard